For me, I feel like I've set up a system, and I've developed the system to where as long as I do the system, then the results are there. But a lot of it's just, the reason people say it's a decision is because it's a decision to have a system in place and then to abide by the system and do the system. So when I get done with the day and I've sold a lot of accounts because of that system that's in place, it obviously feels extremely good. And I feel like kind of it raises the bar. The expectations are a little bit higher. I have higher expectations for myself. So it gets to a point where you expect to be doing these numbers that you're doing because the system's in place. So for me getting to my area, especially after correlation, I know exactly what street I'm gonna be on. I know exactly who I'm gonna talk to first that day. I know exactly who I'm looking for because I haven't been able to get a hold of them yet. So when I'm getting ready to go out, I don't just show up to my area and kind of wander around for the first little bit, trying to make it effective. I've already done that beforehand. I usually know who I haven't talked to. For example, if I'm on a street and I've sold 2 people across the street from a lady that has an existing system, that's the first lady I want to talk to because her neighbors have it right across the street from her, and that's most likely going to be a sale for me. So I'm going to go to her first. Hopefully I get her right away, first door I knock. I definitely think it's important to have a game plan for that day, just because really, if you look at it, you only have 7 hours and you don't want to waste 30 minutes to an hour trying to figure out what you're going to do for that day. When people knock doors with me, a lot of times I kind of seem like I'm spacey, because even on a door, I'll be looking everywhere, just kind of looking for different things. I'll notice different things. Obviously, I'll notice cars in the driveway. As I'm done talking to a lady, I see a garage door just barely closed, so I know someone's there, so I can mark it on my list. Someone's there. That's where I'm going next, because that's going to be most effective. The mailbox, the flag was down when we knocked on the door, and when we looked back, the flag was up, so I knew someone put something in the mailbox, so someone's home. So I went back to that house. Anything I can do to stay focused to see what's going to be the most effective, who's going to be home, and where's my best chance to get a sale. I think we look at what to say in the door approach a lot, and we don't look at the philosophy behind the door approach. It has to be simple and it has to make sense. The people have to get it. If they don't get it, what happens is obviously they don't really know you. They're not comfortable saying, actually, I don't get what you said 2 paragraphs ago. Can you explain that again? They're gonna say, okay, I don't get it, not interested. That's what it translates to. You have to see where they're coming from. You have to empathize with them. You have to realize that if you were the person on the other side of the door and you open the door to someone wearing a collared shirt and a binder, the first thing you're thinking is, oh great, another salesman, I don't want to deal with this. So what I try to do is I try to separate myself as far from that stereotype as possible, because I don't want them thinking that. I want them to think I'm a normal person. You know, I'm there for a reason and I have some credibility in the neighborhood. What I've found that works for me is the first thing out of my mouth, I'll always say, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's good.
Good, are you the homeowner here? And I'll usually have their name, so I'll say, are you Steve? And they'll say, have your neighbors told you what's going on around here yet, what we're doing? And the reason that I do that is because I feel like as soon as I say that, they're thinking, you know, I haven't heard yet, what's going on? Or what are you doing here? Who are you? When I ask, hey, are you the homeowner? The only reason I want to do that is because I want them to look at me and say, yeah, why? Because that's what I'm looking for. I want that. They're listening to me. And so from then on, I want to be as normal as possible. I want to be as simple as possible. The reason we're coming through recently, have you been here for a while, or?
5 years, actually.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Nice. Within the last couple months, and you probably already know the details or whatever, but we just noticed a lot of people are getting these things for whatever reason. I think one of the problems that reps, that I see in reps, is they'll start talking about the alarm system and the new equipment and what it does. The problem is these people don't even care about an alarm yet, so why would they care about cellular? It doesn't make any sense. So if you can make it so there's no way possible that they can't understand it, it's so simple that they'd be crazy to not get it, then they're actually listening to you, they're engaged, and then they're totally fine with you coming in the house and doing the rest of, you know, the presentation. For me or for my customers, I feel like when I'm stepping into the house, it's kind of like, okay, I've done this, I do this 1,000 times. The next step is to walk into your house. I've been in everyone's house on your block, and if they stop me at that point, they're crazy for stopping me because nobody stops me. It turns into me looking at them like, are you serious right now? All right, let me just explain this again because obviously you don't get it. I act like I'm the meter reader. I'm here to do what the meter reader does. My job is to do what the alarm guy does. When the meter reader comes to your house and just walks in your backyard and reads your meter, you don't say, hey, hold on, what are you doing there, meter reader?
he'll look at you and say, I'm reading your meter. So for me, when I'm at someone's door, I'm saying, okay, I'm coming in, let me just see it real quick, I'll show you how this works.
When I get into the house, what I'll do to get into the house, I want it to make sense why I'm asking or why I'm trying to get into their house. It has to make sense to them. Again, this whole thing has to make sense. So for me, the way that I get into a house is I'll say, you know, have you ever
Had an alarm or seen one, or have you been in to see dentists at all?
You know, whatever they answer, I'll say, the nice thing is this new stuff, it's all wireless, so we just customize it to your house. Is your house pretty similar to all your other or to all your other neighbors' houses that I've been in? Usually, you know exactly what the house looks like, you know everything, and they'll say, yeah, okay. So I'm assuming it's just the front door, the back door, then the door from the garage coming into the house, because that's what most houses in America are like. And then, you know, I'll just say.
And usually it's the back or the side of the house that's the main concern. For most incidences happen, it's usually the least visible. Is your side door similar to this one, or is it?
Exactly.
Does it have the glass in it and everything? Okay, you might have to take a peek at it real quick.
And I'll put my head down, step forward. That move is kind of like the more confident you are, the better results you're gonna get. The problem is it's hard for reps to have confidence in it because they've never done it. It's kind of the leap of faith, I tell my guys.
So this is it right here?
Yeah, so here's the other door. It is kind of hid a little bit.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, if you're like most people, I'm sure you've thought about this before. Most people have kind of thought about it or whatever. No, it's, you know, a good idea. With these, the reason that this is kind of an issue, and again, I'm sure you've thought about it, but with that glass in there,
Right.
obviously if someone just breaks the glass, reach in,
Right in.
pretty easy to get into.
Every little step that I do within the house, like I said, the only reason I'm taking those steps is to get them comfortable with me. So as soon as I go from the back door to the garage door or to the back windows, that's a little step. I've already closed them a little bit. That's a little bit of a close for me.
So the doors are the main issue. Other than that, I would say, yeah, we definitely want to throw something on those windows. You mentioned the windows downstairs. Do you say that for a specific reason, or you just kind of thought about it?
It's an easy access because there's like there's window wells. There's 2 window wells and there's
Okay.
one in the back.
Okay.
And I travel a ton.
Okay.
Especially on weekends, I'm not here for like 2 or 3 days at
Yeah.
a time. So I
Okay.
just rely on telling them I'm gone and the guys
Yeah.
next door are gone.
Okay. And how many people would be using the alarm system here? Is it just you or there?
Just me.
Okay, so, and it sounds like, I mean, that makes sense in your situation. A lot of people in your situation have the same setup, especially if they are traveling, that makes a lot of sense. But I would say the same thing about those windows down there, especially if there's window wells, stuff like that. How many do you have downstairs in the basement?
There's 3.
Are they older windows, or?
They're all older windows that you could just.
All right, you might have to take a peek real quick. I'll just.
Talking about the windows upstairs, I'll ask about the basement. Now the reason the basement's such a concern, and I'm sure you've thought about this before, but if your house is like all your neighbors, I'm assuming your bedroom's upstairs. If something were to happen in the middle of the night in the basement, heaven forbid it ever does, but if it were, it's extremely hard to hear that. The last thing you want to do is wake up in the middle of the night and have someone in your house that doesn't belong. Obviously there's momentum being built there, and as soon as we go downstairs, they're closed a little bit more. So I'm always feeling them out throughout the entire sale. That's the whole reason for me taking them to different parts of the house, just to see how they're responding to going through the sale.
So I have certain things that I guess we'll talk about that I'll go through in the sale that they have to go through in order for me to be ready for the next step. And if they don't go through it, it's not gonna happen. We miss it. And so when I'm knocking with guys, I'll say, look, just stand back a couple feet and then don't say anything, because even if that rep's with me, you know, trying to carry on conversation with them, and I'm ready to move on to the next step, and so is the customer, if something interrupts that, it's hurting the sale, period.
I have as few objections as possible. I take care of as many objections that I foresee happening as possible before they come up. Matter of fact, I'll have a lot of guys say, oh, you know, that I knock with, that was an easy sale. But really, I tried very, very hard. My door approach, what I say, every single line I say in there, I say for a specific reason to take care of a certain objection. If I'm in an area where it's a safe neighborhood, I want them to feel like, we know it's a safe neighborhood, that's why we're here. Everybody that lives in a place that there's a safe neighborhood gets an alarm, and that doesn't make sense if you don't. That's the mindset I want them to get. So, you know, if I'm in an area that I know there isn't as much crime or there aren't as many alarm systems, I'll say, well, how long have you guys been here? 5-10 years, then you probably know the details better than me. We're not saying there's a line of burglars waiting to break in your house. It seems like this is a pretty nice area. That's actually why we're here. We've noticed that in an area like this, a lot of people are pretty proactive about this thing. They've already thought about it. If you're like most of your neighbors, I'm sure you've probably thought about this before. Everyone thinks about protecting their house and family. It's kind of human instinct to do that. So, it's a no-brainer why we're here, and this makes sense for so many people in your situation. That feeling that I'm getting when I say something like that is, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I should get an alarm because I am in this situation that he described, and he made it seem like everyone in my situation gets these things. When you get an objection, you don't act phased. Don't change how you say anything, what you say. You have to just stay quick on your feet, I guess is the best way to say it. So that's why it's so important that you know what you say to all these different objections, and what you say is going to be different than what someone else says, but you have to know what you say all the time, and that just comes from practice. If someone gives you an objection and it turns into, oh no, yeah, I mean, well, it's fine, you get kind of like that. They see that something changed and something rattled you, and that, because you're rattled, it's going to make them be a little bit more hesitant. If it comes up where, well, yeah, obviously, I'm not going to do this because my spouse isn't here. Well, yeah, I mean, we realize it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't expect to catch a husband and wife home at this time, especially, it's 2010. It's just not going to happen. Stuff like that. They're saying, oh, he realizes that, this is the situation and people are still doing this. That gets them thinking, so why are people still doing this? They're gonna keep going along with it a lot of times. Every time someone says to me, well, I don't know if I want this yet, I'll say, and we gotta step back a second. Well, obviously, we need to make sure you qualify for this. Everyone that I talk to knows it's not a bad idea, especially when they see it in writing. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's just we're obviously a little bit picky about who we give these to, so we gotta make sure you qualify first. What I'm doing there is having them in their mind, as soon as I say that, say, well, I'll qualify, whatever. It's kind of working against their pride. So on the door, you say it to get into the house because you want them to be thinking, I'll qualify, what do I gotta do? And then it's just letting you go farther and farther. They're listening to you for longer. It's another way to engage them. If this person's a homeowner, they have a car in their driveway, you have to realize that these people are paying a mortgage. They're probably paying for their car. They have other expenses. I mean, these people are paying monthly, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever a month, $1,000, whatever it is, but they're paying something out. An extra $50 cannot break the bank. It can't do it. So for me, I know that that's not a deal breaker. For the most part, it won't. They just don't see the value in why they would spend $50 yet. That's our job. So if the money hasn't come up yet, as I'm sitting down, I want this to be extremely casual. It's not a big deal. So I'll sit down and say, obviously you guys are gonna wanna take care of having this connected and monitored. You guys still pay for that. Have you priced one out before? As I'm saying that, I'll open up my binder, show them the sign. This is what the sign looks like. Have you seen these around here? Okay. The reason I do this is because I just want this to stay casual. I don't wanna say, okay, so money, here it comes. Just as we're talking, oh yeah, you pay for the monthly thing. You'll still wanna have it connected, monitored. This is the sign, this is what it looks like. You've probably seen these before. Anyway, the nice thing nowadays is the monitoring's cheap. Nowadays, the reason everyone's getting these things, you get it locally hooked up for 40, 45 bucks. It's not a big deal. And usually people say, well, what is it with everything? It always comes up, it's $49.99. I just want it to be not a big deal to me so that it won't be a big deal to them. I'll always bring up the discount on the homeowner's insurance. It's not gonna pay for the whole thing, but it's kind of nice. It just makes it so it's a lot more affordable for people. Obviously, no one's gonna go out and spend $200 a month on an alarm like they do and maybe list some of the other things that they spend money on. Cell phone. Obviously, most people aren't gonna go out and spend $200 on an alarm like they do on a cell phone or whatever, but when it's 45, 50 bucks, it's just not a big deal, so everyone can afford it, especially when we're paying for the equipment. That's the expensive part. You really just want it to be not a big deal for them. And then,
so they want to install it, it would be $198 to install it.
no, normally it costs that
For
for a
the tech-
technician to come do it. You actually don't pay for that, we pay for that for you. You don't pay anything. Yeah, it's pretty nice. The only thing you take care of is just having it connected to the police, which I'll show you in a second. It's nothing nowadays anyways.
Okay.
And what was your name? I didn't even get
Kim.
your name. Kim, I'm Jordan, by the way. So after I've explained all the equipment and everything and I'm ready to move into paperwork, I'll go over it again. I want there to be a seamless transition from when I'm done talking about equipment standing up to when I'm talking about equipment sitting down. So I'll say, okay, so just to recap, you have front door, back door. So other than that, is there anything else I'm not seeing you'd want covered? It sounds like that's pretty much it.
Not really, probably just the doors and I don't know, I guess windows downstairs.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, And then there were the 3 and then the one other window in the basement.
Right.
Okay. Do you mind if I take a see how this looks like?
Sure.
I sit down. First thing I pull out is the SOP. The reason I do that is because I was just talking about equipment and I'm still talking about equipment. There's really, that transition is seamless. They don't feel like we sat down to do paperwork. They feel like, oh, he's showing me what he was just talking about. So it's perfectly seamless. Every time I sit down to paperwork, that's when I start asking about them. People love to talk about themselves. So do you visit California very much, or?
I used to work out there a lot.
Oh, okay.
I still go out there a little bit.
What is it you do for work? If you can get them to like you by asking questions about them, just because as they're talking about themselves, they're gonna be happier, they're gonna like you more, and they're gonna be more okay with what's happening as far as the alarm system goes. So basically you don't want the customer sitting there thinking about the monthly monitoring or thinking about, am I actually doing this? You want it to just be very seamless so that they're on the phone, they're talking to the company, it's done, you're done. Probably the biggest competitive advantage for me is mentally. I try to stay focused all the time. From 2 o'clock to 3:45, I wanna have my first sale. 3:45 to 5:30, I wanna have my second sale. 5:30 to 7:15, my third sale. And 7:15 to 9 o'clock, my fourth sale. And all that does for me is push me to stay motivated throughout the day and to not be complacent. But so if I don't do 3 that day and I haven't gotten sales in those increments that I needed, I know that the next morning I'm gonna go out and knock. You know, it's just always trying to sell as many accounts as possible until the sun goes down. I mean, you have to be like that because you know there's gonna be days that you're not selling as many. There's gonna be days that are, you know, rougher and whatever the reason is. Everyone has them, but I think you just mentally have to just stay focused so that when you're actually given a door approach, when you're on the doors, you're not just going through the motions, but you're really trying to find hot buttons, see what it's gonna take to sell this person an alarm system on every single door without fail. I try to make every door as effective as possible, even if somebody isn't interested and I find out pretty quick they're not interested, they don't really wanna talk to me. I still wanna have a good rapport with them. I don't want them to not like me, or when they're driving by, if I wave to them, I want my customers to see me waving to them and have them waving back. I want it to be like I belong in the neighborhood. So I'll always try to make it as effective as possible. You know, and if someone's just not interested, it's very easy to say, you know what, this program doesn't work for everybody, but we are doing quite a few of these things. Maybe you can help me out. It sounds like you've been here for a while. Do you know your neighbors right here? And then I'll just ask for a referral that way. Because yeah, I try to make every door effective, obviously, just to learn more about the neighborhood. Well, I definitely think it is important to have a balance, to have other stuff you do, whatever that thing may be. Sales are important, but the last thing you want to do is get to a point where you hate sales because you know you're doing it so much and you have nothing else going. I think it's important for guys to go out, go to the mall, go have some fun, go to the gym, you know, read books, whatever. I honestly would say I probably don't have an exact routine that I do every single day, because I don't want the same exact routine every single day. I'm already knocking doors from 2 to 9 every day over and over. It's the same thing. It's very monotonous. So for me, you know, some mornings it's this, some mornings it's that. But I think it's important that you have something that you're doing. It's extremely important so you don't get burned out, so you don't start hating selling. Every single day, I keep track of every actual door approach that I give, not doors that I knock, but actual door approaches that I give, how many houses I get into, and how many sales I get. So I know my ratios. Usually 1 out of 5 people I'll sell. And for the most part, it's usually about 60% of the people that I get in the house, I'll close. And about half the people that I talk to will get in the house. So it's usually about 1 out of 5 people I sell. So if I know that I've gone 7 houses, I've pitched 7 people and I haven't gotten a sale, I know that a sale's there. A sale's coming. As a matter of fact, I might get 2 back to back, because if I talk to 3 more people, that's 10, and I know that I sell 1 in 5. So for me, that's how I keep track. That keeps me positive. Most people, just in life, we live kind of at a time where you don't have to do hard things, and it's good just to make yourself do hard things so that when you're out in the summer and you're doing something that's extremely hard, you're comfortable with it, and you know how to do it. People just don't know how to do things that are hard a lot of times, I think. As far as explaining how to gain mental toughness, I mean, as far as getting concrete things to practice to improve that, for me, what I do, I have preseason goals, I have summer goals, and so what I've done is I've broken those goals down. Whatever the goal is, I break it down to a month, I break it down to a week, or however, around your school schedule, whatever it needs to be. And one thing that I think helps me be mentally tough is I know that I have to do X amount of counts for that month. I know that, you know, the holidays are coming up, so I can't sell for that week. I know that we have this trip scheduled for vacation this week, so I can't sell that week, whatever the case is. And I look at the days that I can sell and I go sell those days. I make myself sell those days. Obviously I don't want to sell when it's 20 degrees or whatever, but I know that I have to. And just going out and doing that, I feel like makes me mentally tougher, because it's doing something that, one, I don't want to do, and it's very hard to do. So comparing that to the summer, when you're out and it's 8 o'clock and you could probably be done, especially if you got 1 or 2 sales or even 3 sales, you could probably feel good about the day if you stopped. But for me, you know, that extra hour is kind of compared to the 20 degrees that Friday when you went out and sold and you didn't want to do it, you know. And I think that, you know, those 1 or 2 accounts you get at 8 o'clock right there, those are 1 or 2 accounts that most people don't get. You know, you get a lot of reps that want to do good, kind of, if it's easy for them, and they haven't really made that full decision. They kind of just go through the motions. And really what you end up finding is it's harder, because every single day you're making a decision if you're going to do it or not, rather than making one decision at the beginning of the year saying, I'm going to do this, and whatever it takes, I'm going to do. So that way every single day when you have a little, you know, something in your head saying maybe don't do this, or this is hard, so slow down, you've already made that decision. So you know you can kick that thought and just move on to the next door. So the decision is basically saying all in, 2 feet in, not, you know, half in, half out. And I think that's the best thing for reps to do, is just realize that you're doing this. And so the most effective thing for you to actually hit your goals, to decide to do it, have a system, and then just go out and do it.